course, they survive this.
At least I can try out my new nav unit.
The way Ratchet points out his nav unit makes it seem like it's going to play a big part in the game, but it never gets mentioned again. It'd be like Cloud saying, "Time to test out my Buster Sword," and then proceeding to punch everything. Box physics. If ever a Drophid is pissing you off, take solace in the fact that once you defeat it, you can step all over that fishy fool. The Combustor is kind of a fun pistol-like weapon, for about 5 minutes before its damage output falls lower than Lindsay Lohan on a good night. Oh, Ripto, is that you?
Behold, the last Lombax in the universe.
Angela Cross? In fact, if you dive into the extended lore, during the events of Deadlock, Tachyon was spending his time looking for Angela, but Max Apogee turned up to save her from him. Now, some say Deadlocked is considered non-canon, so take it with a grain of salt, but if this is true, and even if it weren't, then what are you talking about, Tachyon? You're talking out your ass.
Crown Prince of the Cragmites, conqueror of space and time, and pending the obliteration of a few insubordinate species.
At first I thought Tachyon wouldn't want Ratchet dead because Ratchet would probably lead him to the Lombax secret or something. But nope, Tachyon wants to obliterate him. In that case, fucking do it!
Such a primitive robot companion. And your kind used to be such renowned engineers.
Oh, I'd be careful if I were you. He's got posomorphic blaster cannons in each fingertip.
Not entirely wrong. Clank can shift into a giant form and shoot rockets from his wrist, so it kinda counts. Tachyon's walking throne goes down with one swing of the wrench. But later on it takes no less than 300 Rhino 4 rounds, 15 Negotiator rockets, 260 Buzzblades, 3 Groovatrons, 1 Mega Leech Bomb, and a few Magnets. I'm calling bullshit. The Groovatron. A device that forces your enemies to submit to the alluring call of the dance floor. Is that not the greatest idea ever? Ah! Not again! The most deviously complex contraption in all of 3D platforming history! 3 buttons.
Clank, have you been modifying yourself in private?
Absolutely not. And I do not care much for your tone.
That gets us in off. I had a good chortle at that one when I first heard it. Motion-controlled flying. Alright, let's settle the helipack versus thruster pack debate right now. The best one to use is... neither. It's the Robo-Wings, you fuckos. Case closed. Sure is handy that there's ammo for all the latest GrumbleNet weapons lying around on a planet that's been abandoned for years. Clank level. Except there's no checkpoints. For someone who wants to destroy every last Lombax, Tachyon is somehow completely thrown off by a Lombax masquerading as Markiplier. And Tachyon doesn't question why Captain Chin is handing Markiplier an info box.
Some space pirates from Ardolus have offered us bolts for Leviathan souls. Why, if you were to go and fetch some for us, we would happily give you the launch code.
Senor Plot Convenience strikes again! Buzzblades! The motion-controlled geolaser allows you to cut through rocks and walls to gain access to new areas, but if you turn motion controls off, you can just spin the left stick like a spastic until you hit all the dots. We interrupt this video game to bring you Pirates of the Caribbean. Captain Slag is most certainly an individual who cares not for relationships beyond the realm of the sexual, who sleeps with many partners not caring about anything save for the moment of climax. Thanks, Urban Dictionary.
Aye, what be that foul smell?
Aye, that oyster chili be disagreeing with me something fierce.
How might a robot eat oyster chili?
There be a yet fouler smell. One I not be smelling for nigh 600 moons.
600 moons? As in 600 nights? As in less than 2 years? Pretty sure the Lombaxes have been gone for a lot longer than that.
Skewer that saucy wench!
That's rape, right?
Arr, me wee cannonballs.
Heh, bull jokes. We're a few fart and poop jokes away from a sci-fi Shrek spin-off. What could have otherwise been an epic battle against a small army of Drophids is mitigated by the fact that you can run back to the vendor at any time to restore your health.
You've traveled far, but to be clear, without a tail, your quest ends here.
Without a tail, your tail ends here. That sounds so much cooler. Also, that's alarmingly vague. It makes it sound like anything with a tail can waddle up to this door and smack their glove-covered hand on it. Anyone else get the feeling that Talon looks like a Jak and Daxter reject?
Looky here, it's one of those ancient holovid players.
3,000 years into the future, and apparently there was a period where we regressed back to projectors and reels of film.
The weapon used to vaporize the Cragmites was... a hat. Oh, come on. There's no way a Lombax would invent something that ridiculous.
Oh, really? What about your nuclear-powered rocket sled? Your antimatter bathroom buddy? And let us not forget about the electroshock undergarments you invented last fall.
Stunderwear. Huge seller on Umbris.
You mean there's a subplot where Ratchet invents terrible appliances and gadgets and makes a killing off of it? When do we get to play Ratchet and Clank Tools of Comfortable Living? And if Stunderwear were a huge seller, why don't we see any of the bolts Ratchet made from sales? Why can't we use those bolts to buy weapons and shit? I feel like this sin is really petty, but I honestly don't give a hot damn. Give me my fucking money!
Sony say the facility is in this sector.
When this is over, we should probably have Big Al check you out. You may have fried a sister board.
Clank led you in the right direction, Ratchet, you little shit. Cut him some slack.
Hold down the fire button to charge, then let go to release a galactic can of whoop-ass.
Game thinks it's earned the right to say whoop-ass after years of censoring curse words.
It seems the bolt crank activated the bridge. I do so enjoy technology.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's you two! Almost didn't recognize you in high def.
Honestly, I don't even care that they changed the plumber's voice actor, but to keep the terrible meme that I have wrought upon myself alive, I don't like change!
Say, do you happen to need a 3 3/4 cubic hexagonal washer? I seem to have a spare.
I think I hear Chekhov cocking his gun in the distance. Clank level. Ratchet has to make use of his entire arsenal of heavy-duty weapons to take on these pirates, but a love slap from Clank also seems to be enough to subdue them.
Inmate number 510D, hardlined, Ace. Please report to the mess hall for kitchen duty.
Nah, no way Ace Hardlight survived. I fucked him up real good.
The grab ramp. What's the point of these things anyway? Hasn't anyone ever heard of stairs?
Quark would be good at gaming sins. The loons that locked up Talwyn let her keep her guns and jetpack. Fighting waves of enemies on a seemingly never-ending elevator ride cliché. Invisible enemies cliché. The competitive Ratchet and Clank community unanimously agree that adding foot stalling single-handedly changed the competitive scene, though whether for better or worse is another story.
Ratchet?
So, does Ratchet have, like, directional hearing or something? He's really bad at that. Yeah, okay, fuck the Jacindu boss. Sure, he's cute, and sometimes that's all you need, but the battle opens with a grind rail segment before you fight the boss. And if you die, you have to do that grind rail bit all over again. And again. And again. And again, in my case. Seriously, I hope this boss gets breast cancer or something.
Try to follow us, and I'll gut ye bow to stern.
Oh my god, Ratchet, what are you, Owly? Just shoot, you idiot!
We wasn't expecting any visitors, Longbacks.
I wasn't expecting to see the same boss 4 times, and yet, here we are. I actually thought the fight against Slag was pretty good. He was challenging, but relatively fair. The problem with Slag is that he feels like a bit of an afterthought story-wise, as if they inserted him into the narrative to counteract the fact that Tachyon is a bit of a forgettable villain. Waves of enemies appearing partway through a boss fight cliché.
Ever since the rocket sled, you've been nothing but a giant pain in my...
Quark Ex Machina? Or whatever the opposite of that is, I guess?
Quark, put down the Dimensionator.
I shall now emblazon my name in the annals of galactic history by hurling this infernal contraption into a black hole!
Okay, there have been plenty of situations Ratchet could have shot someone in this game and he hasn't, but I think this is the most annoying one. It would save him a lot of headaches in the future, no?
If I leave you with the Dimensionator, no one will be safe. Not the Lombaxes, not my friends. I'm not going anywhere.
Character chooses friends over family he's never met cliché. Rhino 4's pretty neat, I guess. The battle against Tachyon is good, but the problem comes from the problem of weapon balancing that I think the future series has always had. Weapons do practically no damage and have very little ammo to compensate, and early weapons like the Combustor and Plasma Beasts are useless here. It makes what could have been an enjoyable, intense final boss a bit of a slog.
You can't kill me, Longbacks. Only I know your true purpose in this galaxy. Only I know your true name.
Except not 20 minutes ago you said this.
Why you fight for them, dear boy? Those creatures didn't even have the scruples to give you a name.
It's broken. Looks like something snapped off the primary reflux coil.
I believe it is missing a 3 3/4 centicubic hexagonal washer.
Chekhov, you bastard. Just kill me now.
Dimensionator, find home!
That's vague. What does a Dimensionator recognize as home? Velden? Kerwan? Ratchet's dimension in general? At times like this, a little more clarification would be helpful. And only now the Zoni are choosing to show themselves? Why? If they made themselves known earlier, the whole argument between Ratchet and Clank could have been avoided.
Yes, time to come with you.
Robotic drug trip. While the story in Tools of Destruction is perhaps unnecessarily convoluted and unsure of itself, I will admit that this is how you do a cliffhanger. This legit left me wanting more as a kid. And then they all slowly suffocated because they forgot to shut the window. Discount Daft Punk. Where's the plumber in this game? Does no one ever have a plumbing problem? Wait, that's the plumber? That's not the plumber. That's the plumber's responsible older brother with a PhD in plot progression.
And why should we trust you? You ejected us into space.
The smuggler ejected them to a random planet, not in space! The difficulty option in a 3-hour game with barely any combat seems a little superfluous.
Once upon a time,
Narration. Story events told through a storybook cliché.
there was a fearless young Lombax who gained fame and fortune by ridding the galaxy of Emperor Percival Tachyon and Captain Romulus Slag.
Ratchet already has fame as he's supposedly the last Lombax in existence, and he already has fortune because of his brief business stint with Stunderwear. Oh, brief. Hey, but hear me out here. Generally speaking, I do not like Quest for Booty nearly as much as any of the other mainline Ratchet and Clank games. But these platforming challenges were a lot of fun, and it was nice to see a bit more of a focus on exploration and platforming compared to, well, pretty much any game after the original. Wind turbines seem unnecessarily difficult to access. They're guarded by a platforming section that requires grav boots or grind boots, followed by a bolt crank to which the necessary tool to activate is owned by the universe's only Lombax. Insomniac probably shouldn't have hired a literal river system to voice Darkwater. It adds nothing to the role. Instead of slicing Ratchet in twine with that giant-ass sword, Slag just boots him over the edge and calls it a day.
Here's a little something to show that there's no hard feelings.
How convenient Rusty Pete was hanging on to those.
It's me Captain Slag, Scourge of the Galaxy. I'm... Dirty backstabber, no good take a ride.
Slag and Darkwater have this history behind them, i.e. the one where Slag was planning a mutiny or whatever and managed to kill Darkwater, yet they're now suddenly working together. Sure, they're sharing the same body, but I wouldn't immediately make up with the guy who killed me just because his head is on my shoulders.
That star is my only hope of finding Clank.
Almost forgot Clank existed, to be honest.
How long you take these weapons? I just found them floating out near Hulafar Island.
And I am done. Darkwater set up all these security measures so no one would find his treasure, except they're all a bunch of puzzles that can be solved by anybody because these pirate skulls are genuinely daft enough to not recognize that the small furry weasel before them is not a robot pirate. How to brew grog. You know, for kids. Ratchet forgot Ratchet and Clank 1 was a thing. Oh, come on. We got a curse word and tools of destruction. Are we just done with that? Why aren't we just here? This looks eerily familiar. Ledge climbing was barely used in previous games, so Insomniac decided to make up for it by making 80% of Quest for Booty ledge shimmying. Remember that boss that appeared like 4 times in Tools of Destruction that no one liked?
This is your last chance, Slag. Just hand over Talwyn and the star.
Has this ever worked for anyone? Yeah, you go, Talwyn. You get that floor. Doing a good job there. She's a bit slow. The final boss battle is kind of fun, but it doesn't really feel like a final boss battle if you catch my meaning. It's unremarkable. Organ swords.
After several lucky shots and a few cheat codes.
Pirates who play dirty aren't allowed to complain when their adversaries play dirty. I don't know what's going on with Nefarious's head here, but it scares me.
The end.
Rusty Pete is quite the artist. Either that, or he pulled a book telling the story of Ratchet's very recent adventure to Hulafar out of infinite bag space, both of which I question profoundly and unnecessarily. This is absolutely the worst nickname I've ever seen.